Yes, so thank you very much for asking me about that. Gives me the opportunity to make a little advertisement for myself. So yeah, the book that is nearly finished, it is finished. It's on its way to the press. Will come out in New York with Fordham University Press. And it will be a book with 10 chapters. It will be called Cultural Techniques, Articulations of the Real. And as I said, consists of 10 chapters, each chapter dealing with a special cultural technique. And thereby going through different areas that I have been working in since the last, say, 10 to 12 years. One area is about cultural techniques that produce and erase and displace the so-called anthropological difference, that is the difference between man and animal. This is one part of it, so this is where the field of cultural techniques connects to what in the United States now is called animal studies, and also in Europe we start to work more disciplinary in this new field of animal studies, which I think is good. Another field is concerned, other chapters in this book are concerned with questions of design and construction. So these are chapters. There's a chapter, for instance, on ship design. There is another chapter on design in general as a culture, designing as drafting, drafting on paper or in other media as a cultural techniques of construction. And there are chapters on funny things like speaking animals, because this also is important for the question of the anthropological difference, and maybe it's also a good example for another hybridity. One of the very well-known definitions of the human being since Aristotle is that man is the animal that speaks. So since Aristotle has said that, the human animal had a shadow, and that shadow were speaking animals. So if you want to deconstruct this anthropological difference, you only have to look at the history of speaking animals, and there are a lot. Birds, many birds, parrots. But also in medieval times it were not the parrots, were other birds, pique in Latin, that spoke, and nearly all philosophers had a problem with these speaking animals. So you have the speaking animal, of course, already in Plinius, you have it in Aristotle, you have the speaking animal very prominently in Descartes, and you have it in German idealism. So the philosopher which is very much connected to my town, Weimar, is Herder, who had a great problem with speaking animals because he thought that his pupils in his school were nothing but speaking animals, and who made animal noises. So you can draw a line through cultural history where you see that the difference between humans and animals always had to be reconstructed, by sorting out these two different kind of speaking animals. There are speaking animals that are humans, and there are other speaking animals that are animals. So how do you sort them out? So this is a classical topic for the field of cultural techniques, for instance, and other chapters will be on art, on the way one can look at artworks as producing or being produced by certain types of cultural techniques that are practices of self-referentiality that by again very simple things like two-dimensional and three-dimensional bodies and hybridization between the two. These self-reflections of dimensions then re-enter artworks and produce there what in conventional art history would be called image object. So this again is a field where I try to deconstruct image objects that are represented objects in the image as a black box of practices that lie in the history of that type of artwork. So these are some examples that come to my mind from this new book.
So thank you very much for this very interesting conversation. There is a lots of questions that we want to put, but I think that you are very tired and you skip that for the next year when you came. You will come for another conference. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for your patience and thank you for. I mean, I talked much too much, but this is.
It's a rare pleasure to talk with a very live polymathos, very rare type of person.